going to remove the wheel, use a 22mm socket, and pull the wheel off. I'm going to take this ball joint nut off. You can use a 21mm wrench, loosen it up. And take that off. I'm going to use a pickle fork to disconnect the ball joint from the knuckle. There's different types of tools that you can use. There we go, it's separated. I'm going to take these two bolts out. There is nuts on the top. Use an 18mm wrench, put those on the nuts, and then use an 18mm socket. Take the bolts out. Now to remove this bolt and nut, we're going to have to loosen up the link for the sway bar. The sway bar is in the way right now if we were to pull that bolt out. You can try to slide that out, but most likely it's going to be in your way. So we have to take the link off on this side and on the opposite side. Just going to use a little rust penetrant. There's a little bit of rust on the stud. Take an 18mm wrench and you can loosen up the nut. And the stud is going to spin, so you want to use an 8mm socket. Put it on the stud. You could try to loosen this up with an impact, but the stud is just going to spin. So. And take the nut off. And you can take the stud out, just like that. With both of those links disconnected, then you can slide the whole sway bar up, and then you can access that bolt. Then you can use a 21mm socket and a 21mm wrench on the nut and loosen this up. You can slide the bolt out. Now just take a pry bar and just pry this out. And there you go. Now take a 24mm socket, take this nut off. You can slide this bushing off. Then you can take that protector off and slide this bushing on. Now where this ring is, that goes towards the inside of the bushing. On this bushing it happens to have this blue area right here, the outside is white. Take the nut. And just snug this up a little bit. We're going to torque it later. Loosen it up a little. We want this to be able to move. Now take the new control arm and just slide it in position. Take the ball joint, slide it into the knuckle. You can take the nut, get that started. Now get this bolt lined up. And put the nut on. And then take these two bolts, slide those through, put the nut on top. Now I'm going to snug these down first. Use an 18mm wrench up top, 18mm socket down below. Now I'm going to tighten these bolts to 55 foot-pounds. Now I'm going to put a screw jack underneath the control arm. safely support the control arm. You want to get the control arm as close to ride height as possible. It would be ideal if you could put the tire back on, put the vehicle down, and then torque the nut here and torque the bolt here, but it's not that easy to get a torque wrench under there. So do the best you can, get this close. Then you can use a 13/16 wrench or a 21mm wrench, 21mm socket on the bolt, and torque this to 111 foot-pounds. We're going to torque this nut to 144 foot-pounds. Now we can use our wrench while this lower control arm is still supported and tighten this nut up. And then once you get it tight, if you have the ability to put a torque wrench on there, you can torque that bolt, that nut to 30 foot-pounds and then an additional 90 degrees. Now I can lower this down. And slide the sway bar up. Slide the link stud through this bracket on the strut. Get the nut started. Then use an 18mm wrench, 18mm socket, tighten this up. And torque this nut to 59 foot-pounds. And put the tire on. Now I'm going to torque these lug nuts to 140 foot-pounds in a cross pattern or a star pattern to tighten the wheel down evenly. Now I'll go around again, just double check. Now when you're done this job, you're going to need to bring the vehicle to a shop to have it aligned. Otherwise, you're going to have premature tire wear.